Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
And thanks for having me back, Jim.
Ross, RBC survey finds 56% of Canadians looking at buying a home say they're going to wait until 2020. Is that a good move on their part?
Yeah, pretty much. If you're in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, that's probably a good move in those three provinces. I think you're going to be waiting longer than 2020. I don't think it's going to make any sense. The problem with those type of surveys, though, Jim, is that, often your mortgage is a bigger factor than what the price of the property is. And this is where a lot of confusion takes place. So you need to sit back and you need to get a basic cost on what it's going to cost you over the next 30 years to own a home. And that's really what you should be making a decision on. The survey, I'm assuming you're quoting, will have something to do with their calculation of affordability, which, we just have a chuckle at every time we look at them. And we have a chuckle because, we look back at how things were when interest rates were 10%. And you were paying, or 12%, and you were paying 97 cents of every dollar you paid to the bank for a mortgage was going to pay your interest. Only 3 cents was going towards your paying down your mortgage. That is a cost. Your interest cost, generally speaking, is your second highest cost, and at times over the last 50 years has been the number one cost of home ownership, and that's something that these surveys don't take into account.
Well, Ross, in my own head, I used to calculate whatever, I'm paying on my mortgage it's about 2.5 times what the list price of my property was. Is that what you should be looking at? If it says 200,000, your real cost is 600.
Yeah, that's in the boomers, as the boomers started out, that's exactly what they're looking at. I mean, a lot of the complaining that's been going on about the housing market is focused on the price of the home. Well, the price of the home is only part of your cost. Your mortgage, as you've mentioned, there is higher. I don't think people reflect upon this enough, and I know that I was under some misconceptions myself, just as short as 2 weeks ago, when I sat down with my mom and my dad, and we were having a discussion. And I made the comment, well, your first mortgage was 6%. And Mom looked at me and she said, no, it wasn't. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, no, our first mortgage was 8.5%. So this was 1962, and my parents' first mortgage was 8.5%. And I was surprised because I had always thought, the money was privately sourced for them because they didn't qualify to get a mortgage at the bank. A local farmer lent them the money, and they purchased the farmer's house from in town, the farmer's father's house. The farmer's father had passed away, so that was the house my parents bought, and the farmer held the mortgage. But it was 8.5% in 1962. And Mom went over about how she still got this book that she had from way back then, where she had all of the payments that she had made each month. And then part of the deal with that one, Jim, is the farmer demanded, and this was in my parents' best interest, that not only it was an interest-only mortgage, but they, on the anniversary date, they had to apply principal. And the procedure that the farmer had, my parents paid their mortgage off in 10 years, but you still have to take into consideration the massive amount of mortgage interest that they paid at that time. And when we look at housing prices today, and we're commenting and we're saying, well, look, the price of a house really has not changed since the 1990s. We're saying that because we're taking the interest cost into our discussion.
So with that being the prime factor, does there need to be more education of the public about this? And again, was the stress test a good idea to keep the price target affordable?
Okay, so the stress test, we sent a letter to the OSFI back in 2013 addressing the mortgage lending environment that was going on at that time. What was happening is that Affordability brought in new rules that would allow for the qualified home buyers, people with the best credit scores, to go ahead and get a mortgage that was 39% of their total income. 39%. And what happened at the time is that the housing prices were getting higher and more people were getting cut out of the market, leaving only those with the best credit score able to apply for a mortgage. And if you go back and you check the CMHC data from, say, between 2010 and 2019, you're going to see that's exactly where the trend went. You're going to see an increase in the gross debt service ratio for the buyers who were buying houses. But that was because of a rule change and because of the predatory lending practices of Canadian banks. That's how we view it. We go back, we know a lot of people in the industry, Jim, that have been around for 30, 40 years. And when we talk to those people, we go back, 30% was pretty much the average. It was only when the banks got really aggressive in wanting to make profit for their CEOs to get a bonus that they capitalized on this 39% gross debt service ratio for high FICO score clients. The regulator at the time really was not aware of how the dynamics of home ownership change over time with interest rates. So the regulator, the Office of Superintendent and Financial Information, really, I don't think, understood it until we sent our report to them. They did not respond. I'm be honest with you here. They did not respond back and say, hey, we're going to change the policy based on what you said. All I can say is within 2 years of us sending the report, something came out in the marketplace that had never been discussed before, which was the mortgage stress test. So could be all a coincidence, but I think the most prudent decision that was ever made in the history of Canadian financing was the mortgage stress test. It was not because we needed to add it in. It just means the existing test that had existed for decades and decades was being violated by the bank's greed to lend more money. So really, Jim, the mortgage stress test is an awesome tool by the OSFI. I'm not going to get into the discussion what the mortgage stress test actually is. Maybe sometime in the future, on a future show, I'll explain to your listeners what the mortgage stress test actually is, other than to say it is nothing like it is presented to the public. What they are describing it to be is not what it is. It is a specifically designed test meant to overcome the bank's predatory lending practice.
We'll have more with Ross Kay when we return.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Ross Kay. Ross, Ontario's Real Estate Association made headlines today asking for the bully offers to end in Ontario. What the hell is a bully offer, and what does it mean?
Okay, so what a bully offer is, throughout history, it was referred to a competitive bidding process where more than one buyer wanted to put an offer in a property. We used to call these competitive bids. There was training involved years ago, decades ago, I guess I have to keep saying, that taught realtors the proper way to handle multiple offers on a single property. But over time, the Ontario Real Estate Association, this started probably around 2005, they always like to come up with terms that sound, it's not, I was going to say, to try to make something that's common sound mysterious or sexy for that matter. So they came up with this term, bully offer. Well, that term is a made-up term by organized real estate. It does not exist. It's sort of like the shadow banking term or the shadow mortgages. Those terms did not exist. They're fabricated terms, which is a bully offer is. Needless to say, what a bully offer simply means is, in Ontario, at least for that matter, the owner of a property puts it on the market and says, I'm not accepting any offers until May the 1st. So they list the property the middle of April, but they say we're going to have it on the market for 2 weeks, and we're not going to accept any offers. That's going to let everybody have a look at it, and then on May the 1st, anybody who's interested in an offer can bring an offer in, and we'll look at them all at that time. Well, a bully offer is where a buyer's agent shows the property, and the buyer says, I don't want to wait till May the 1st. We want to do an offer now. And the realtors get a glimmer of commission in their eye, and they come up with this idea, well, let's go with an offer price that is over asking before the offers come in. And we'll make it with an irrevocable date. In other words, the offer is only valid for, let's say, 6 hours, which in turn forces the homeowner to look at the offer. Now, what I will tell your listeners is this. For an experienced realtor who's handled thousands of transactions, these little type of games are easily navigated. And these would-be terms, these would-be ideas are all thwarted very quickly. But since the vast majority of realtors have not even sold 100 homes, they don't have the experience of dealing with them. So they feel this pressure from this offer. They misrepresent this pressure to their seller, and the seller in turn looks at an offer without looking at all the other offers that are going to come in on May the 1st. They see an offer that's more money than they're asking, and they take it. Everybody else who's interested in the property wakes up on May the 1st and finds there's a sold sign in the front yard because the seller took a bully offer. Bully offers are a fabricated term by organized real estate to get away from them being charged by the provincial regulators for failing to adhere to the rules. And what the Ontario Real Estate Association has been doing in Ontario for the last 3 years in a full-out onslaught is try to divert attention from all the illegal practices their Ontario Real Estate Association members have participated in over the last decade by trying to get the rules changed, which would in turn cause all these violations to be forgotten. And that's exactly what's going on here, Jim. What the Ontario Real Estate Association is doing is this. While the bully offer methodology worked for the commission earning benefits of their members over the last 4 or 5 years, they were silent. They had no problem with the bully offer. They were actively engaged in promoting the concept of a bully offer themselves. But the moment that the housing market slowed down and the commissions started to drop, they flipped it. They are now working on the buyer's side. because that favors the Ontario Real Estate Association. Now, if they can bring in no bully offers and get the government to pass that, it means that the buyer now is going to be able to have his odds in having a multiple offer situation on a property that they're interested would increase. So what they've done, Jim, is they left it. Bully offers were okay when it worked to their commission advantage, and now they want them removed because that would work to their commission advantage. At no time is the public being served in this discussion by the Ontario Real Estate Association. But in typical organized real estate flawed thinking, what the Ontario Real Estate Association is actively doing is destroying their own members' business. Because although a realtor can be instructed by the provincial regulator to act in a certain manner, and in turn they can try to force their clients, their homeowners, home buyers, to follow certain rules and procedures when they buy or sell a home, the consumer does not have to do that. There is no consumer in Canada who cannot accept a bully offer if they want. The only people who will not be able to participate in that is a realtor. So let's look at this from this perspective. Because the majority of the media listens to realtors. The story you're talking about today, I saw reported in every single major mainstream media in Ontario here today. So I'm looking at my Twitter feed and it comes across from all of them. Those media organizations simply regurgitated the Ontario Real Estate Association's talking points, which in turn the consumers will believe to be in their best interest. When the truth is, it's just the opposite. But because the only voice that consumers hear is that of organized real estate filtered through mainstream media, the consumer may believe this.
Well, one thing people have to realize too, watch your evening news and see how much of it is sponsored by local realty companies, and you know the influence major advertisers have on newsrooms, where traditionally there was no influence. Nowadays, believe me, there's a lot of influence. I don't know if it's a good idea to, the boss of the television station, well, here in BC, for example, Global, the general manager of the TV station is also the news director. Guess what direction they might make their decision in? I don't know if you want to be too hard on Remax. They got to make a living, and they spend $3 million a year on ads here on the Supper Hour News. So maybe you might want to do a different story. They don't. They don't usually come right out and say don't do a story. They just say you may make a better choice.
In Burlington here, our local newspaper was owned by Metroland Media. It's called the Burlington Post. We ran a full-color, full-page ad, 52 weeks of the year for a couple of decades. When we first started running those ads, it cost $2,000 a week for us to run those ads in our local newspaper. And I can tell you, Jim, that I could pick up the phone at any time I wanted, and if I thought there was a story that was going to negatively impact my clients, I could have that story altered. And I know that organized real estate across all of Canada, North America, is exactly the same, because newspapers rely on advertising dollars, which in the vast majority have always been from organized real estate. That's simply the way it is. So I can't be surprised that as those people work their way up the food chain into CTV or some other media outlet, that they would carry those habits with them. And I'm sure that's what's going on. And it is really, really damaging to the financial position of regular Canadians. And when the media is wondering why are our revenues down, why can we not survive, why does the public seek out alternative viewpoints to get their news from? Well, the answer is really quite simple. You are not serving the interests of your clients. which are your readers. Your readers want a unbiased opinion. I mean, you look at the nonsense about your March sales being reported out in Vancouver last week, Jim. When you look at the magnitude of the false information communicated to home buyers and home sellers in Vancouver last week, it was ridiculous that not one single newspaper challenged the stats that were being released, even though they were just unbelievable, even when you heard them being talked about.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Grand Portage Resources recently completed the 2018 drill program on its 100% controlled Herbert Gold Discovery property located in the prolific Juneau Belt in southeast Alaska. Drill results are expected through late 2018. Past drill results included numerous multi-ounce gold assays on multiple veins. Grand Portage trading symbols are GPG on the TSX Venture, GPTRF on the OTCQB, and GPB on Frankfurt. For more information, please visit our website, grandportage.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, if you can give a quick answer to a listener who asked, would it be a good idea to take out a line of credit on my condo that I owe $400,000 on and could probably sell for $900,000 while prices are still up there, and use that extra money to grab something if the market really drops in Toronto?
Okay, so I mean, obviously, without knowing this particular person's situation, I can't give I have to give a qualified answer, and I'll give the same qualified answer that I would have to every listener out there who owns a home. While your home is valued at the highest price possible, you should have it appraised, and you should have a line of credit created against it by some lending institution. That is what you should do, because that is the biggest safety valve for your life that you will ever have access to. If you do not take an advantage of that, then you're going to lose the power position that you're in right now, because valuing your house with a line of credit while it's at peak price gives you the power over the bank. If you don't do that, you're going to come at a time in the future, most families do, where the bank once again has power over you. They're going to be able to charge you higher rates. They're going to be able to limit how much money you can borrow from them. They're going to dictate things about your life by restricting the choices that you can make. I would not be buying a condominium right now. There are certain buying signals that you're going to get in the condominium market sector, which will tell you it's safe to buy again. But that is not when the market is dropping, and that is not when you think you can guess the bottom of the market. There is a specific time in every province and in every municipality when you should re-enter a market, because it's the safe time. It's the no-risk time. It's the time that you're not going to make a mistake. That said, line of credit, I would be getting a line of credit on any property that I owned right now, and I would have actually gotten it when it was at the peak price, which in this case, by the sounds like it, you say in Toronto, that should have been way back in 2017, because a lot of that opportunity is now gone. In Vancouver, it should have been 2016, and in Alberta, it should have been way back in 2008.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been homeownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.